Have you ever seen a movie that you felt that you have to put your hands on to change a thing or two in one of its scenes? Well, being a part of film production might be the right thing for you if you did think that way. Stay tuned on Radio Puls 95 and on our weekly radio talk show Good to Great, as we are hosting an amazing film producer who will tell us how he started out as a good film producer and transformed to be a great film production company owner.
Only on Puls 95. Puls 95.
We are here today with Mr. Firas Sameer, founder of the Babylon Gate Films and winner of several international awards in recognition for his own professional artwork, which were recognized from different international festivals and entities. Not enough being said about his major accomplishments, I'm sure there's more to tell about his success story. Hello, Mr. Firas, thank you so much for coming. It's good to have you in our show.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here with you in your show. I hope it will be informative to the listeners.
I'm sure it will. Okay, so we'll start off about asking you about yourself. We would like to hear about you. Can you tell us an introduction about yourself?
Yeah, of course, you said my name is Firas Sameer. I'm a film director and producer based in Dubai. I own a company called Babylon Gate Films. I started this work maybe as a freelancer before I created my company, maybe more than 10 years ago. Before that, I had a lot of experience in engineering field because I'm basically an engineer, a computer and telecommunications engineer.
Film production is not something easy to do. So what has gotten you into film production and how did you establish Babylon Gate Films? Actually,
it's my personality. I like to challenge things in my life. And this is the main reason. And I will link this to you. I hope I will not make this long for you. I'm basically a gifted artist in sculpture, painting, even in singing, playing music. I have this great feelings and passion about art in all fields, visual and audiovisual arts. So since I was a kid, I like artistic things. I like to paint paintings. I like to do sculpture, singing, music, because also the environment is helpful. My family used to support us in our hobbies in these things, and they know that we are gifted. My brother and my sister also. I used to do things that has challenge in it. So when it comes to art, I used to paint something. I enjoy the journey of the painting. Then I see the result. I like the result. Then I feel like I can do better than this in everything I do, even in engineering. So the things that keeps me challenging is the movies creation, because it has a lot of steps that I can work on to develop, starting from the story, script, shooting, directing, editing, and all its details like post-production. So I have this passion since I was a kid and teenager, and it started evolving over time. And while I watch movies, international movies, it gives me inspiration. This kept on developing till I reached a time that I said, "That's it. This is my field. I need to pursue it and go with it."
So I
for
see
the rest of my life.
So I see that you connected art to you, to your perspective. Film production is also a piece of art.
Correct.
It's part of art.
Definitely. It has two parts. It has the creative part side of it, and it has the skills side of it of production. Several sections in the movie production requires some artistic mentality and taste in addition to the skills. Some people, some companies, some freelancers, they have the skills. They know how to use the camera. They know how to use the editing software, either it's audio or video. But in the end, An artistic mentality is a must to give that fine-tuning touch to the final project video quality.
Yeah, because I've read a few things about film production.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that the film producer also has to pick the actors as well. Mm-hmm. Not only the actors, he has to pick the right novel, the right script to create the movie. So you have to have a full, complete picture of the whole movie before producing it, which is not easy. It's really not easy. So in terms of selecting the characters or the actors for the characters in the novel or the movie or the script that is prepared, how do you do that?
Actually, selecting the actors to any movie or any project, it comes on later stage. The first stage is developing the idea and the script, the scenario. Then the director has the main role of selecting the characters, the actors for his stories and script characters. Mm-hmm. Because in the end, it's the director's movie. It will be in his name. So he has to select this. He will be responsible for that. Rare times where the producer, if it wasn't the same director as the producer, he might have something to say about that. When he has willing to select some actor to do a specific role, he will discuss this with the director. And in the end, the director will take this full responsibility of selecting the right actors for his story in his own vision, of course, because he knows the people who either from the casting or well-known actors, so he knows which one can play perfectly the part.
The director himself.
Yeah, the director. Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of responsibility and more hard work, who do you think does more hard work, the director or the producer, or both?
Definitely the director. The director is responsible for every single every single stage of the film production, from A to Z, literally. Even in the post-production, the editing part, if he's not the same, the editor, the director is the editor, he sits with the editors. He supervises everything. He has to ask everyone to apply his own vision in the whole production process, in all the aspects.
And this is where the producer comes.
The producer, it's a little bit like on different level of managing that, because the producer is basically the person or the company who produces financially the movie or the video project.
To give the final image that the director wants, basically.
The director, but many times the director should be limited somehow to the wide vision of the production company. Sometimes a production company, they have a goal in this movie, for instance, or they have some hidden message they need to deliver. So the director has to understand this from the production company or from the producer, and then he take all the burden on himself to direct the project or the movie to match that somehow.
That was very interesting to hear. So we're going to go on a quick break, and we're going to ask you, Mr. Firas, about the challenges and the struggles that you've faced during your journey of creating your company after the break.
Only on Pulse 95. Pulse 95.
And we're back here on Good to Great with Mr. Firas Sameer, founder of Babylon Gate Films. So, Mr. Firas, establishing a company A to Z is not something easy to do. So I'm sure you had struggles and challenges. What are the challenges or the struggles that you faced while trying to create your company?
Okay. Actually, there were a lot of struggles all the way. Starting from my own family, basically because I graduated as an engineer in computer and telecommunication field. My family, my brother is also an engineer, electrical engineer. My older sister is a doctor. So I faced a lot of rejection from my family to proceed in this field, especially when I was working fine in the engineering field. So this is the struggles that I was facing with my family, basically. But then when they saw the work that I'm working, because I was working as a freelancer for years in this field before I established the company. Also, I faced a lot of other struggles with the competition in the field. Establishing a company on papers, it's really easy, but going to success and having a real business, ongoing business, it's really hard because there are a lot of competition in the market, and also the support side from other people in the market. It was lack of support, to be honest. That's why I was alone in this path. I believed in myself. I believed in my qualifications and my knowledge, and also my relationships. So I overcome those struggles successfully, hopefully.
I'm sure you did. I really do wonder if you have ever worked on Hollywood movies or Hollywood projects in America, Los Angeles. Do let us know.
Yeah, actually, no, I haven't been in US before, but I actually participated in one of the Hollywood movies with the top star Tom Cruise in his well-known movie series Mission Impossible 4, when they had to shoot several scenes in Dubai. I participated as an extra cast at that time, and it was really...
Which part of the movie was that? Which part in the movie?
Where it comes to Burj Khalifa scenes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it was really a great opportunity for me to interact with Hollywood technicians and arts and behind the scene of creating the movie. I talked a lot with the people who are working behind the scene, and this really enhanced my experience in the film production. Technically, not only knowledge, because I studied also diploma of film production and film directing from the Hollywood Film Institute several years ago. So interacting with real Hollywood staff that working on the ground really makes the difference for anyone who wants to enhance his experience in the field. So it was a real experience to me.
I'm sure it's a very nice one. I mean, to cast in a movie with Tom Cruise, I would kill to do that. All right, so moving to the people who inspired you, because you told us that you felt like you were let down a little bit, disappointed that you would definitely learn. So, but I'm sure you had an inspiration, someone who inspired you. Let's say maybe a movie producer, or you inspired yourself to be what you are now.
Yeah, actually the inspiration came not only at the time where I established my company or worked as a freelancer. It started early in my age, when I was a kid or teenager, when I used to see like Hollywood movies, when those movies that has this kind of dreamy, inspirational stories or action side of it. For example, the movies that were produced by James Cameron or Steven Spielberg, several movies that inspired me. And since then, when I get involved emotionally with film production, I used to buy at that time like books that talks about the secrets of movie making. That
Amazing.
was in the 80s and the 90s, beginning of the 90s.
Where the internet was...
it wasn't invented even. This gave me the hope that one day that I will be a director that will make movies similar to those great movie directors. Still, of course, the way is too long, but I'm the beginning of the way. But I believe in myself. I believe in every single thing that I taught myself from different resources. I challenged myself I challenge other people, but without telling them. It's in me. Like if there is someone is doing a great job in directing a project or editing something. I say, why I can't do that? I start teaching myself, I start learning and trying. And when I achieve something, I became happy. I'll start looking for another challenge. That's why I told you my personality was the reason why I started.
You're very challenging. Well, I guess
why.
It's never too late to do anything.
Definitely,
it's never too late to do anything.
Definitely.
So let me ask you a question. Like, have you ever watched a movie and then you felt like you have to put your hands on the movie, like you felt maybe this movie scene was not that good or not the way that you've expected and you want to change it?
Definitely.
What kind of movies?
Actually, even in my social media, I from time to time, I found some mistakes in Hollywood movies, and I make like a screenshot or edit a small video to explain why this mistake was there. Either it's intended to be there or it was a mistake. Can
you give us an example?
This is really hard. I need to remember because it's from time to time. You can check. I can send you a couple of those posts.
All right, so we're going to go back after a quick break with Mr. Firas Sameer to ask him about the people he admires and the role models that he sees.
She ain't messing with no other man. Me and I have something different.
90. Only on Pulse 95. Pulse 95.
So, Mr. Firas, with a lot of people inspiring you and being your support, I'm sure you also had enemies along the way who made a block to your dreams and told you can't be a film producer. Whom were your enemies?
Actually, a lot of people whom I cannot name to you now, who stopped me and tried to push me away or delay my success or try to give me this impression that this field is not for you, or many of them are who own production companies or people who supposed to be a reason that I get again some work as a freelancer before. People who spoke about my back about me in a negative way. A lot of people, to be honest, they were like that, and it was a real challenge for me to keep on fighting to stay and remain on my own dream to have a successful career in this field. And I hope I did overcome all of those challenges.
I'm sure you did. You have your own company. Okay, so with regards to the mistakes that you've done, have you ever done any huge production mistake that you still remember and that has affected you? What type of mistakes, like what kind of mistakes that you think that gravely affected your job or your career life?
Yeah, actually, one of the big mistakes that I started late. And the reason why I started late, because I have already a career in the engineering field. I worked with several international companies in different technology fields. And this was pushing me away because it's not easy to leave something that it's really steady and this is what you graduated to be from the university. But I have that passion to go into the media and film production field. That's why I get delayed many years because of that. So this is one of the mistakes. I had to start earlier to pursue my passion.
So you would advise us that we look into our passions, never waste time?
Definitely. If you feel that you are good at something and you have passion about that, you love it, go for it. Just go for it. But of course, on the right time, you have to check your ability, whether you are able to go for it or at this moment, or you need to improve yourself for certain skills.
Well, because to me, I think it's never too late to do anything.
This is absolutely right.
But I'm sure
But it's also right that you know your abilities. Yeah, because some people, for example, we can see that. For example, if someone likes to be a singer, he can go to any of the voice voice programs on TV to, for example, The Voice, to apply for their dream to be a singer. And then we start laughing at them, for example. The reason is because they need to be sure that they are ready at this time.
Well, that's the problem, and the issue is rejection. Like, for example, let's talk about The Voice itself. So if you think that you're a good singer, then you go to The Voice and then you get rejected, this might let you down.
This is totally different. I'm not talking about people who get rejected normally.
But most of them do get rejected.
No. We see some people there are good singers. Why they get rejected? Those people are true artists. But the program doesn't have the ability to have all of them together. But I'm talking about some other people who has nothing to do with singing, and they believe they can sing. They have to be sure that they are able to do the work, or at least at that time, if they need some improvement in certain areas. This is what I mean. I'm not talking about in general.
I see where you're going.
Yeah.
So, as it's never too late, also everything comes at the right time.
Definitely.
All right, so moving on, I also want to ask you about the people that you admire and your role models. Do you have any actor or someone from the family or friends whom you see as role models?
Actually, the role models are many, because it depends on what I'm looking for, either in the personality, how to develop a personality as an artist, to be speaking with the public, or technically side and artistic side of the career itself, not doing the work. For instance, James Cameron is the main role to me to be a film director. I was really inspired by his work many years ago. He got my attention into film production. I started looking for that when early age of my own life. There are different people in different fields, as I told you. Of course, my family, my brother is a musician and he's an engineer at the same time. I used to take him as a reference for me when it comes to music side. I used to ask him, his name is Leif.
Your elder brother?
My elder brother, yes. And there are many in different fields, but I wanted to focus on what we are meeting here today. That's why I'm talking about the artistic side of the subject.
So what about your favorite movies and hobbies? Now, hobbies, I'm sure it's art, it's painting, because you told us that you're into the artistic side and you like painting since you were a kid.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so this is for hobbies, but what about the movies? Are you into thriller? Are you into horror? Are you into comedy? What are your favorite movies?
Yeah, my favorite movies, it comes when there is like entertainment, basically. But we can narrow this down into like 2 to 3 genres, mainly maybe drama and action together. Comedy is okay, but it should have some good story with good drama, not only only funny parts of the movie. I like the story. I like to be engaged into the movie that I watch. And this is where when a movie became a successful movie, when you start forgetting about everything in your life and you get deep into the story and the role of the main character, that you feel what she or he is facing, or what obstacles or funny parts that happens to the character all the way with the story. This is where it became a successful movie. For example, I like Interstellar. This is one of the finest movie, I believe. Avatar, I watched it maybe 10 times.
Wow. 3
times in cinema, and off cinema maybe 5-6 times.
but don't you think like the 3D graphics, it's too much sometimes? It takes the essence of the story itself, because what I see nowadays in movies is that they focus a lot on 3D effects, they focus a lot on the music, not the story itself.
Well, the music it's totally different. The music is a main role in a successful movies. You cannot have a movie that you can watch without supporting music and a high quality audio. It's like 40 to 50% of any successful movie to be a successful. It's a cause to be successful. But when it comes to 3D, it's only an option to make more revenue because some people, they like to watch 3D movies. 3D. Yeah. But Avatar, what I was telling you about, I watched it, I found myself like a kid when I watched this movie. Literally. I found myself like I'm not an adult. So I'm into a real world created by the director's vision.
So you would say it's a well-produced one.
In myself, like I forget that I'm an artist. I forget about my vision. I just got into that world. That was amazing experience to me.
So it is a well-produced and directed movie.
Extremely well produced.
So you don't want to add anything from...
No, add anything of what? Sorry.
From your side, like you don't feel like there are any flaws in the movie?
Definitely not, no. It's a perfect movie to me. And also, of course, before that, like the Terminator series movies and any good movies, I cannot mention everything. There are a lot of drama, good movies. I like drama a lot. I like to feel, I can control the feelings in my work. I'm so sensitive to drama scenes. And when it comes to making movies, like when I work and I make a movie, I have that great feeling of audio-visual to deliver the right feeling to the audience. Either it's like in the rhythm of the editing, of the cut, either it's fast paced or it's supposed to be slow. Whether the music, what kind of music and when it should start, or the cut between the shots, how to present that as an editor. Now I'm telling you, because when the editor is a director or the vice versa, the work will have different quality and it's fine.
The feel
and final touch of the work. So that's why I prefer to watch something that affects me, either to make me feel bad, to make me feel sad, to cry or to laugh. I need to be affected by the movie. If the movie is flat, it doesn't show me only action scenes or only laughing scenes, I don't suggest that movie to anyone.
Yeah, because this is where you can tell if the movie is actually good enough, if it delivers the message and the feel to the audience.
Definitely. There are a lot of factors, not only that, but this is what I mainly concerned about.
That was very interesting to hear. So, any advice that you would like to give to the listeners?
Don't start late, and it's never late, as you said, too late.
Don't start late, and it's never too late.
Never too late to start.
Absolutely.
Just believe in yourself and work on yourself a lot. Don't say it's enough. Don't believe in yourself in a way that you feel that you know everything. If you feel that you know everything, you will fail from the beginning. You have to keep on thinking that still there are a lot more you need to learn from other people. Don't envy other people. Try to learn from them. Try to challenge yourself to be like them.
I'm sure it's the best advice. Absolutely. I'm learning. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Mr. Firas Sameer has talked to us today about film production and how fun it could be. So now we know that behind the movies that we watch are great people who spotted the creative and commercial opportunities to create a world full of entertainment for us all. Do text us on 4215 and let us know what you guys think of today's talk and what are your thoughts and advices that can help us change from being good to great.
You walked away, you left me out here on the floor.